General Maya Rodriguez stood at the window of humanity's last remaining military command center, buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. The skies above burned orange with the fires of another fallen city. The Kraxan ships hung in the atmosphere like angular black thorns, their energy weapons cutting through Earth's remaining defenses with ease. "General, they've breached the Atlantic defense line," her aide reported, voice trembling. "Europe has gone dark." Maya closed her eyes, letting the weight of another loss settle onto her shoulders. 6 months since the Kraxan arrived. 6 months of watching humanity's most advanced weapons bounce harmlessly off their shields. 6 months of watching billions die as cities fell one by one. "What's the status of Project Lazarus?" she asked, turning from the window. "Dr. Wong reports they're ready for the attempt, but—" The aide hesitated. "Ma'am, many still think this is a waste of our remaining resources. The chances of the legends being true—" "The legends are all we have left," Maya cut him off. "Tell Dr. Wong I'm on my way." The descent to Facility Zero took 20 minutes through layers of security and reinforced doors. The facility predated the current war, predated modern history itself. Its existence had been passed down through a secret line of military leaders for 3 millennia, waiting for the moment when humanity would need its contents most. Dr. Helen Wong met her at the final checkpoint, the scientist's usually immaculate lab coat showing signs of days without rest. "General, thank you for coming. We've confirmed the pod's systems are still operational. It's remarkable, really. The power source uses principles we still don't fully understand." They walked together through the final corridor to the main chamber. The room was massive, carved from solid rock, and filled with humming equipment both modern and ancient. At its center stood a cylindrical pod, frost coating its transparent surface. Inside, a figure floated in suspended animation, a woman in her late 30s, wearing a sleek combat suit of unfamiliar design. Her features were sharp, Eastern, with a long scar running down the right side of her face. According to the legends, this was Commander Sarah Chen, hero of the First Expansion War, one of the enhanced warriors who had led humanity's first ventures into deep space before some catastrophe had forced her into hibernation. "Life signs are stable," Dr. Wong reported, checking her instruments. "Brain activity is present but minimal, exactly what we'd expect in deep stasis. If the historical records are accurate, she's been like this for over 3,000 years. Maya studied the warrior's face. "And you're certain the revival process will work?" "As certain as we can be. The pod's systems are incredibly sophisticated, far beyond our current technology. It was designed for this, meant to preserve her until she was needed most." Helen's voice dropped. "Though I should warn you, even if we succeed in waking her, there's no guarantee she'll be able to help us. The psychological trauma of such a long hibernation alone." A distant rumble shook dust from the ceiling. The Kraxan were getting closer. "We're out of options," Maya said firmly. "Begin the revival process." Dr. Wong nodded and moved to the pod's control panel, her fingers dancing across its ancient interface. The pod's hum deepened, frost beginning to melt from its surface. Inside, color slowly returned to the warrior's pale skin. "Cellular regeneration is starting," Helen reported. "Core temperature rising, brain activity increasing. Everything looks—" "Wait." She frowned at her readings. "Something's happening. Brain activity is spiking well above expected levels." The pod's surface suddenly cleared completely, and Commander Chen's eyes snapped open. They were augmented eyes, Maya realized, the irises ringed with geometric patterns that pulsed with their own inner light. The warrior's hand shot up, pressing against the pod's interior. Our lips moved, forming words they couldn't hear. Dr. Wong hurried to activate the external speakers. Freet assessment. Chen's voice came through, calm and measured despite her situation. Status of Earth's defense forces. Enemy composition and capabilities. Maya stepped forward. Commander Chen, I'm General Maya Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Force. You've been in stasis for approximately 3,000 years. Earth is under attack by an alien force called the Kraxon. Our weapons are ineffective against their shields, and we've lost most major population centers. You were our last resort. Chen's augmented eyes focused on Maya, studying her with an intensity that made the general want to step back. Then the warrior nodded once. Release the pod, Doctor. We have work to do. As Dr. Wong initiated the opening sequence, Maya felt hope for the first time since the invasion began. The legends said Commander Chen had never lost a battle, had never failed to protect humanity no matter the odds. They were about to find out if the legends were true. The pod hissed open, steam billowing out as Chen stepped onto the facility floor. She moved with fluid grace despite her long sleep, her enhanced muscles showing no sign of atrophy. Her combat suit, made of some strange iridescent material, seemed to ripple and adjust to her movement. Show me everything you have on the enemy, she commanded. Their ships, their tactics, their weaknesses. And then show me what remains of our forces. A slight smile crossed her scared face. It's time to remind the galaxy why humanity survived the first expansion war. Another explosion rocked the facility, closer this time. But Maya wasn't worried anymore. In Commander Chen's augmented eyes, she saw something that had been missing from Earth's forces for months. The absolute certainty of victory. Commander Chen stood in the war room, her augmented eyes scanning the holographic displays showing Earth's desperate situation. She had been awake for 48 hours, absorbing 3,000 years of history, while simultaneously analyzing every scrap of intelligence on the Kraxon invasion. Her enhanced mind processed it all with machine-like efficiency, but her expression grew darker with each passing hour. Your civilization achieved remarkable things, she said to General Rodriguez, who hadn't left her side since the revival. Quantum computing, fusion power, limited artificial intelligence. But you forgot the most important lessons from my era. She gestured to the display showing Earth's defensive installations. You forgot how to fight. We had centuries of peace, Maya defended. The soul accords. Made you soft, Chen cut her off. The Kraxon aren't the first species to view peace as weakness. We fought dozens like them during the expansion war. She pulled up an image of a Kraxon warship. Their technology isn't even that advanced. We faced worse 3,000 years ago. The problem is your tactics. She waved her hand, and her combat suit's built-in systems interfaced with the holographic display. New images appeared, ancient battles, forgotten weapons, and combat techniques that had been lost to time. Humanity survived the expansion war because we learned to be unpredictable, Chen explained. The enemy has energy shields. We developed phase-shifted kinetic weapons. They have superior numbers. We perfected hit-and-run tactics that made numbers irrelevant. Every alien race thought they could overwhelm us with brute force. They all learned otherwise. Dr. Wong, who had been monitoring Chen's vital signs, spoke up. Commander, many of these weapons you're describing, we don't have the technology to recreate them. A slight smile crossed Chen's scarred face. Yes, you do. Before I went into stasis, I didn't just hide myself. I hid our entire arsenal. She turned to Maya. General, I need your best pilots and ground troops. the ones who aren't afraid to try something new. It's time to start training them in the old ways. The next week was a blur of activity. Chen worked the soldiers mercilessly, teaching them combat techniques that had been forgotten for millennia. Her enhanced strength and speed made her a fearsome instructor. Even Earth's most elite special forces struggled to keep up. But they learned. They had to. The Kraxen continued their advance, but slower now, cautious after several of their forward scouts had mysteriously vanished. Chen had shown the troops how to exploit microscopic gaps in Kraxen's shield harmonics, how to turn their own sensors against them. The Kraxen aren't invincible, Chen explained to her students as they gathered in the underground training facility. No enemy is. They rely too heavily on their technology, expect every battle to follow the same pattern. She activated her combat suit's full capabilities, the iridescent material shifting and hardening into armor. We're going to show them what happens when the pattern breaks. Maya watched from the observation deck as Chen demonstrated advanced combat moves, her augmented body moving faster than seemed possible. The soldiers' initial skepticism had given way to awe and determination. They had seen the recordings of her first test of the new tactics. A single squad taking down a Kraxen patrol ship, using nothing but modified civilian equipment. "It's remarkable," Dr. Wong said, joining Maya at the window. "Her neural enhancement patterns are unlike anything in our medical database. The way she processes information adapts to new situations. She's what humanity might have become if we'd continued down that path of evolution." "Why didn't we?" Maya asked. "What happened to make us abandon all of this?" "I've been asking her about that," Helen replied. "She won't say much, but I get the impression something went wrong during the expansion war. Something that made humanity choose a different path." Below, Chen was showing the troops how to modify their weapons with crystalline components she had produced from her suit's matter fabricator. The modifications looked crude, but had proven devastatingly effective against Kraxen shields. "General Rodriguez," Chen's voice came over the comm. "We're ready for Phase 2. It's time to show you what I hid before my long sleep." The journey took them deep into the asteroid belt, in a stealth ship modified with Chen's ancient technology. The commander stood at the helm, her augmented eyes piercing the void of space, searching for markers only she could see. "There," she said finally, pointing to what looked like an ordinary asteroid. "The entrance to Cache Site Alpha." As they drew closer, Chen transmitted a series of complex signals. The asteroid's surface shimmed, and then seemed to fold away, revealing a massive hangar carved into its core. Inside, rows of sleek ships waited in perfect preservation, their designs unlike anything humanity currently possessed. "The last fleet," Chen announced. 50 ships equipped with our most advanced weapons and defenses. Everything we developed during the worst battles of the expansion war. She turned to Maya, her augmented eyes glowing with fierce determination. "Now we just need to teach your people how to use them." But as they began exploring the cache, alarms suddenly blared. A Kraxen battle group had detected their presence and was moving to investigate. Chen's expression didn't change as she checked the tactical display. "Good," she said calmly. "Now we can give your troops their first real combat test." She activated her combat suit's full battle configuration. "Let's show the Kraxen what humanity is really capable of." The ancient warrior moved toward the nearest ship, its systems coming alive at her approach. "General, get your best pilots in these cockpits. The enemy thinks they're hunting us." Her scarred face broke into a predatory smile. Time to teach them the difference between hunters and prey. The Kraxen battle group never knew what hit them. The ancient ships moved like living things, their phase-shifted hulls letting them pass straight through enemy fire. Commander Chen led the attack personally, her neural interface giving her perfect control over her vessel's advanced systems. Pattern Omega-3, her calm voice directed over the tactical network, just like we practiced. Remember, they expect you to fight like modern humans. Show them something older, something hungrier. The Earth pilots responded beautifully to their training, their ships dancing through space in formations that hadn't been seen in 3 millennia. The Kraxon ships, massive and imposing, suddenly seemed slow and clumsy in comparison. Their energy weapons splashed harmlessly against shields based on principles their sensors couldn't even detect. Target their port shield generators, Chen commanded. 3-second burst, then dive through the gap. Their tracking systems can't handle the transition. The battle was over in minutes. 5 Kraxon warships reduced to drifting debris without a single human casualty. But Chen wasn't celebrating. This was a scouting force, she explained as they regrouped at the asteroid cage. The real test comes when they realize what they're dealing with. The Kraxon don't take defeat well. I recognize the type. They'll respond with overwhelming force. General Rodriguez studied the tactical displays, still trying to process what she'd just witnessed. How long do we have? 3 days maximum. Chen was already moving through the cache, directing teams to prep more ships. They'll bring their entire fleet. It's what I would do in their position. She paused, her augmented eyes scanning data streams only she could see. We need to accelerate the training schedule, and we need to wake up the rest of Cache Site Alpha. The rest? Moya asked. Ken led them deeper into the asteroid. The hangar had been impressive, but it was only the beginning. Beyond it lay vast chambers filled with more than just ships. There were weapon systems, defense platforms, and things Maya couldn't even identify. The last fleet was only part of what we preserved, Chen explained. This cache contains everything we developed during the expansion war, including our most desperate innovations. She approached a sealed door marked with warning symbols. Things we created when we thought we were going to lose. The door opened to reveal rows of combat suits similar to Chen's, each one a self-contained weapon system far beyond current human technology. These were meant for the final defense of Earth, she said softly. If everything else failed. We never had to use them, but we made sure they'd be here if future generations needed them. The next 48 hours were a blur of preparation. Chen pushed everyone to their limits, teaching them to use weapons that bent physics in ways modern science said were impossible. The ancient warrior never seemed to tire, her enhanced body requiring minimal rest as she supervised every aspect of the preparation. But in a rare quiet moment, Dr. Wong found Chen standing alone in the cache's command center, staring at old battle recordings. "You carry a heavy burden," Helen said gently. Ken's augmented eyes flickered. "We all made sacrifices during the expansion war, became something more than human to ensure humanity's survival." She touched the scar on her face. "Sometimes I wonder if we made the right choice, taking these enhancements, pushing ourselves so far past normal human limits. Is that why humanity abandoned this path? After the war, people wanted to be human again. They feared becoming like some of the aliens we fought, so focused on advancement that they lost their humanity entirely." Chen's expression hardened, but they forgot that sometimes survival requires sacrifice. Sometimes you need monsters to fight monsters. An alarm blared, interrupting their conversation. Chen was instantly alert, checking the sensors. Her expression grew grim. "They're coming," she announced over the general frequency. The entire Kraxon fleet, over 300 ships. She pulled up the tactical display, showing the massive armada moving toward Earth. This is what we prepared for. Everything I taught you, everything we recovered, it all leads to this moment. The ancient warrior strode toward her ship, her combat suit shifting and adapting for space combat. General Rodriguez, deploy the defense platforms around Earth. Dr. Wong, begin activating the cache's automated systems. Everyone else, to your ships. As the pilots scrambled to their vessels, Chen's voice carried across the command channel, steady and confident. Remember your training. Remember what we fought for 3,000 years ago. The Kraxan think they're facing a broken, retreating enemy. Show them they're wrong. Show them they're facing the species that survived the expansion war. The last fleet rose from its hidden berth, ancient engines flaring to life. In her command ship, Chen interfaced directly with the vessel's systems, feeling its power flow through her enhanced nervous system. The Kraxan fleet filled the tactical display, their ships arranging themselves in rigid, predictable patterns. All units, prepare for combat, she ordered. Today, we remind the galaxy why humanity ruled the stars. Today, we show them what it means to wake a sleeping giant. The battle for Earth was about to begin, the hidden fleet. The void between Earth and Mars erupted with the largest space battle humanity had witnessed in 3 millennia. The Kraxan fleet moved with mechanical precision, their formation designed to overwhelm any conventional defense. But Commander Chen's forces were anything but conventional. Execute Maneuver Serpent's Fang, Chen commanded. Her consciousness merged with her ship's systems. Groups 2 and 4 engage phase shift. Group 3 prepare temporal nets. The ancient human ships split into smaller units, moving in patterns that seemed chaotic, but were precisely calculated by Chen's enhanced mind. The Kraxan's rigid formations began to break apart as they tried to track targets that seemed to exist in multiple places at once. They're adapting, Maya observed from the command center, watching the tactical display. Their ships are starting to break formation. Good, Chen replied, her voice calm despite the chaos around her. That's when we spring the trap. Activate Cache Site Beta. Deep within the asteroid belt, another hidden facility awakened. Thousands of autonomous combat drones, each carrying weapons that hadn't been seen since the expansion war, emerged from their long slumber. They swarmed toward the battle like a tide of metal and energy, striking at the Kraxan fleet's exposed flanks. The battle shifted into a new phase of desperation. The Kraxan, realizing they faced technology they couldn't understand, began employing increasingly destructive weapons. Space itself seemed to warp and twist as ancient human technology clashed with alien power. But Chen had anticipated this. They're following the same patterns we saw in the expansion war, she transmitted to her forces. When conventional tactics fail, they resort to raw power. That's when they're most vulnerable. She directed her ships to execute increasingly complex maneuvers, using the Kraxan's own energy weapons against them, reflecting their beams back through carefully calculated dimensional shifts. One by one, the massive alien vessels began to fall, reclaiming the stars. The final phase of the battle centered around Earth itself. The Kraxan, driven to desperation by their mounting losses, launched their remaining ships in a suicide run toward the planet. Their intention was clear. If they couldn't conquer Earth, they would destroy it. Chen's augmented eyes narrowed as she analyzed their approach. All units, initiate Protocol Omega. Deploy the Guardians. From Cache Site Alpha, the last of humanity's ancient weapons emerged. Massive defense platforms, each housing technology that had been deemed too dangerous to preserve in active use, moved into position around Earth. The combat suits Chen had shown them earlier were activated, their enhanced pilots linking with systems that blurred the line between human and machine. Remember, Chen transmitted to the Guardian pilots, "These suits are an extension of your will. Don't fight their power. Embrace it, like we did in the final days of the Expansion War." The clash that followed would be spoken of for generations. The Guardian suits moved with impossible speed, their weapons cutting through cracks and shields as if they didn't exist. Chen led from the front, her ship and suit working in perfect harmony as she demonstrated why she had been considered the greatest warrior of her age. The Kraxen's final assault faltered, then broke. Their remaining ships, faced with technology they couldn't comprehend and warriors who seemed to ignore the laws of physics, began to retreat. But Chen wasn't finished. "No survivors," she commanded, her voice carrying the weight of ancient battles. The Kraxen must learn what every other species learned during the Expansion War. Earth is not to be threatened. The pursuit was methodical and absolute. By the time it was over, not a single Kraxen ship remained intact. Earth's space was secure for the first time since the invasion began. In the aftermath, as humanity began to rebuild, Chen stood in the command center one last time. Her augmented eyes surveyed the tactical displays showing Earth's new defenses, a combination of modern technology and reawakened ancient weapons. "Will you stay?" General Rodriguez asked. "Help us rebuild, prepare for future threats." Chen was silent for a moment. "No," she finally replied. "My time was 3,000 years ago. We made ourselves into weapons to ensure humanity's survival, but that's not what humanity needs now." She turned to Maya. "You've proven you can stand on your own. My role is done. Where will you go? There are other catches out there, other secrets from the Expansion War that need to be protected." Chen's scarred face softened slightly. "Perhaps someday humanity will need them again. Until then, they should remain hidden like I was." Before she left, Chen transmitted one final database to Earth's leaders, knowledge of defensive technologies and strategies, but not the weapons of mass destruction or biological enhancements that had marked her era. "Learn from our past," she advised, "but don't repeat our mistakes. We became monsters to fight monsters. You've proven there's another way." As her ship prepared to depart, Dr. Wong asked her one final question. "Was it worth it? The sacrifices you made, the humanity you gave up?" Chen's augmented eyes pulsed softly as she considered the question. "We ensured humanity's survival, not just in our time, but now as well." She smiled, touching the scar on her face. "Some prices are worth paying." Her ship vanished into the depths of space, leaving Earth to forge its own path. But the legend of Commander Chen and the ancient warriors who had saved humanity twice would live on. And somewhere out there, watching from the shadows, an enhanced warrior stood guard, ready to wake again if humanity ever faced extinction once more. The stars belonged to humanity again, and this time they would face the future on their own terms.